it's work. It takes sweat, and it takes time, and it takes effort to come up with something great. Inspiration can happen in a lightning bolt, but you still have to craft it. You still have to mold it into something that's good. That means the best hitters in the game fail 6 out of 10 times, 60% of the time. That shows you that, you know, failing is not only part of the game, but it's part of succeeding.
Yeah, it's crucial, right?
It's crucial.
Yeah.
You can't succeed all the time.
Yeah.
And your failures will lead you to success.
Love it. Welcome to Thrive on Creativity. Creativity is the cornerstone of remaking the world. It's our unique defined trait that lets us thrive within the 21st century. We're here to share with you a jazzy mix of a creative funk, people with backgrounds in various areas such as art, science, business, sports. Join me to discuss the meaning of creativity and flow. Creativity and flow are about dropping limitations and pushing off borders to see the amazing places our creative abilities might bring us to. We're glad you're here to join us on this creative journey. From the heart, we're deeply grateful for your creativity.
Let's talk about being creative.
I had the pleasure to chat with violinist, composer, and producer Eric Gorfain from Los Angeles. Eric has long focused on bridging the worlds of classical and rock music. His early professional days were spent as a violinist in the recording studios of Tokyo, followed by a stint as a concertmaster for Jimmy Page and Robert Plant's Unledded tour, inspiring him to create the Section Quartet, which quickly became an in-demand studio ensemble for rock, pop, and rap artists. Along the way, he learned the craft of string arranging, contributing his sensibility to albums by a wide range of artists, such as Foo Fighters, Christina Aguilera, James Blunt, Kanye West, Sam Phillips, Band of Horses, Def Leppard, Tesla, Sean Lennon, A Perfect Circle, Cassandra Wilson, Snow Patrol, Neil Diamond, Fiona Apple, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Kelly Clarkson, Banks, Robbie Williams, and R.E.M., just to name a few. Holy smokes, that guy is crushing it. Eric has published several rock string quartet arrangements of songs by Radiohead, Coldplay, and Elvis Presley, with plans to publish more titles on the horizon. For information, go to his website, ericgorfain.com, ERICGORFAIN. And you know what? The best part? I had the pleasure and privilege to collaborate with Eric and the Section Quartet on a couple of my songs. Ha! Lucky me! During this episode, we talked about the importance of creating routines, having active recovery phases, building resilience, embracing failure in order to succeed, and also about green tea. Enjoy the ride. Okay, thank you so much, Eric, for coming
Thank you,
here.
Johannes.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Yeah, super excited to talk to you about creativity and your intrinsic motivation. And yeah, let's dive deep in. What's your story behind why you picked music?
I feel like music picked me, actually.
Okay.
I started playing violin when I was 4 years old, almost 5. My father had played violin when he was a kid. And so I remember him coming to me one day saying, "Oh, you're going to start playing violin next week. You're going to start getting lessons." He used to tell me that I bugged him to let me play the violin, which I don't recall. But, you know, it doesn't matter at this point. It all worked out pretty well. So I started when I was 4 with the Suzuki Method, which is a method for learning string instruments and piano that was developed by a Dr. Suzuki in Japan. It's very well known. Yeah. The method kind of focuses on ear training more than reading music right away. So you kind of learn and you hear things and you mimic things.
Okay.
You look at how people are doing, the form and the shape of what people are
Okay.
doing, and then you mimic it. Music was kind of naturally around at that point.
Yeah.
So and I think that way it's a more holistic way of learning music, rather than just worrying about technique and form and being proper and all that kind of stuff. So or posture, I should say, not form but posture.
Do you think it's a more personal way?
Yeah, well, maybe it's personal in that. Well, what's interesting, because it's a Japanese-derived method, it incorporates the group setting as in addition to the individual. The Japanese society kind of favors the group over the individual as a general rule.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a group lesson every week, and you have a private lesson every week.
Oh, okay.
But the group lessons are just as important, if not more important, than the private lessons.
Interesting.
And also, one of the parents is intimately involved in the practicing, the practice of practice every week.
Yeah.
So, because my father had played violin, he obviously was the parent that helped me practice every week. So, anyway, I think the long and the short of it is, I think I was able to learn and incorporate music or imbibe music
Mm-hmm.
into myself more
Yeah.
than just thinking about it from my head. It was more about the heart and
Okay.
more about feeling. And so when it came around to later in my education, my musical education, to learn how to read music, it was a challenge at first because my ear was much faster than my eye.
Oh, wow.
And so I had to catch up a little bit, but then
Yeah.
I eventually did.
Oh, wow. And is there like a specific moment that created that spark you can go back to?
That I don't remember. I was too young,
Okay.
I think. But I did enjoy it, and I guess I had an aptitude for it, and I was good at it, so I kept going.
Nice.
And then at some point, it was like, oh, this is part of my identity.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Wow.
and it's something that I want to do.
Right.
So,
How do you feel when you engage in playing the violin or writing music?
well, sometimes, unfortunately, I have to admit, after so many years in the business, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote, sometimes if I'm guilty of letting it get to me like it's a job.
Yeah.
And so
sure.
I have to break away from that sometimes.
Mm.
And oddly enough, sometimes some of the things that I feel are going to be, oh, this gig is going to be just a job, end up being really fun and creative.
Oh, okay.
Once you get in and
Yeah.
once you open up the hood
Yeah.
and look underneath,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this, or I can be more creative about it and actually have fun with it. So every time I catch myself being too jaded
Mm-hmm.
about the business side of it, or
Yeah.
about like, oh, I have to do this today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, no, wait. First of all, I'm lucky and fortunate to be able
Yes.
to do this.
I
It's
agree.
my job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't, I count my blessings at every opportunity. But to find the creativity in every piece of music that I'm given to work on is fun. It's a challenge
Yeah.
sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I don't care if I'm doing a string arrangement for a big artist or a new artist that
Yeah.
nobody's ever heard of. I put the same amount of energy and effort into it.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
want to deliver the same goods.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have moments? They're part of this whole journey, but they're not very pleasurable in a way.
There are some things that I will turn down now that I just don't want to do anymore. But it's not necessarily against the music. It's more about the situation.
No, I'm totally with you with that.
Yeah. So it's not about creativity.
Yeah.
In fact, there are jobs that require very little creativity.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I many years ago decided to just stop doing.
Yeah.
I won't go into what they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they are.
But you don't depend on those gigs.
I don't depend on those.
Yeah.
No.
That's a really good situation.
Yeah. When I first moved to town, I did depend
Of course,
on those.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but it was a long time ago. And
Yeah.
and so oh, there we go. I'll go back. You can edit it out.
God damn it. Now I'm the
First
one.
rule of recording.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but I found that I do want to work on projects that are more creative. That
Yeah.
that the client or the collaborator is giving me more creativity, more leeway for creativity.
Yeah.
As someone doing a job for somebody else, I have my I can put my creativity into it,
Mm-hmm.
but I also have to help realize their vision.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can influence it in a good way and maybe, add something to it and maybe introduce something to their vision that they hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like sometimes people, and rightly so, have a very clear vision of what they want, and I'm just there to fulfill it.
Yeah. The last few years, just collaborating with a lot of different musicians. I used to have always a vision, and I wanted to play it exactly how it is. And then I realized it's less fun, more stressful. Other people are way more talented, in what they're doing than my understanding of whatever their instrument, in a way.
Yeah.
And I think I would limit the potential of that piece in a crazy way. And only because it's different doesn't mean it's worse.
Exactly.
You know.
That's an important lesson as an artist, such as yourself, and as a producer. That's super important to learn. These days, a producer, the word producer can mean someone who just creates the entire track and then someone else sings on it.
Yeah.
That can be limiting.
Exactly.
Because the way I think of producing, when I've produced stuff and when I've worked with producers that I like, half of producing is actually, they should be called casting agents, because they're picking the right people to go into the room and do the job. And not just do the job that the producer says, play this. There are times for that, of course, but there are other times where I'm hiring that guitar player to do his thing.
Yeah.
And I'll step back, let him do his thing, and then guide and mold rather than dictate.
Yeah, exactly.
The more that you can learn that, or the sooner you learn that, the sooner that the material you produce and the material you even write and put out into the world can be more interesting, because you're bringing in personalities.
Exactly.
And not just, workmen.
Yeah.
And musicians appreciate that too. The musicians that are asked to actually be creative rather than, as a session player, a string player, I do both. I come in, sometimes I'm asked to come in and just read the part.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I will interpret it differently from somebody else, but there's also, it can be charted out in a way that there's just one way to play it.
Yeah.
And everyone, and you play it as an ensemble together, and that's the way it is. Nothing wrong with that. It's just one way of doing things.
Yeah.
Then the other way is where, I'm either allowed to arrange something in advance, or I am asked to come in and just, improvise and create, come up with something on the spot.
How is improvising then?
How is it?
Yeah,
it's a challenge. It can be again, it's a challenge. It's fun because you can put your personality into something.
Exactly.
You can go crazy and you can push the limit and see how much the artist and the producer, how far they can go with you. And then, if it's too far, you can pull back.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun to be able to have that much creative freedom to just, throw it all against the wall and see what happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. One producer told me that if you come to me, you get Pepsi. If you go to someone else, you get Coca-Cola.
True, that's true.
Yeah. That's how, that's why what you said, you pick certain people for a certain kind of flavor you want to have.
Yeah, I would actually, I don't know who that was, but I would probably try to say, you go to that person, you get Pepsi. You come to me, you get a homemade craft, unique, boutique,
way more,
artisan kind of thing.
Yeah.
You want to get something. I'm being kind of snarky, but you want to. I understand what he was saying or she was saying, and it's true. Everyone does bring their own flavor to proceedings, and as an artist, going to a producer, you need to give that kind of. You need to give them that freedom to be creative and to bring ideas to your music that you may not have thought of, and then refine it in ways that you may not have thought of.
Yeah.
And if you're the producer, the other way around, you need to bring in the people that can be creative and can that you can then help, guide and mold and form into something that is usable in the production.
That's right. When it comes to creativity, do you have writer's block, this stereotype, like those moments where you have to, okay, this is an obstacle now, like how am I gonna like cope with it or attack it, or like those situations.
Yeah, I think everybody runs up against that at some time.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have like a trick or a way, like a way out that I usually get, other than putting it down and walking away or going on to something else.
Yeah.
If I'm working on a string arrangement and it's just, I'm like, none of this is good. None of this is happening.
Yeah.
You know, I can put it aside, move on to something else, clear the head, you know, listen to something. Like sometimes I find, you know, I guess we can talk a little bit about input, what I've heard people call input for output.
Okay.
Where, you know, if you want to be creative, you need to absorb creative things. You need to, you know, you take in art in order to then create art and put out art. So with music, it you know, it can be literally listening to music.
Yeah.
And getting an idea from something. It can also be going to a museum and looking at the art in a museum. It could be reading a book. It could be listening to a podcast. It could be talking podcast. Yeah. It can be a lot of different things.
Taking a hike.
That's actually that's a great. Thank you for bringing that up. Exercise.
Yeah.
I've had so many ideas, musical ideas, come to me, and even business ideas come to me while I'm walking. You know, and I don't like jogging, so I like to walk. Yeah. So, you know, I'll walk for an hour-ish, and I'll get so many ideas. Even if I'm listening to music that's different from what I'm working on, I'll get these ideas, and I'll even like zone out of the music, and I'll have these other ideas that come to me while exercising. I think that's kind of it's been somewhat proven that. That,
definitely.
You know, talking and exercising, talking and thinking during exercising. Is a good way to actually.
I always space out.
And I mean, I've had meetings with people where we just walk, and you can actually talk about things. There's a different, you know, sitting across the table from one another is one way to talk about things and discuss things, come up with ideas. But when you're walking side by side with somebody, there's something about it that I don't know. I think
your brain lights up.
Your brain, it's something about the oxygen you're getting.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's also
the movement.
You're not necessarily having to look at someone. You can look at them.
Yeah.
But you're also both looking forward.
Yeah, that's right.
It's metaphorical. There's a lot. There's a lot of it. You know.
Yeah, that's right.
That goes into that. But anyway, I find that does work. So that can sometimes break writer's block, or when you have a dearth of ideas. And you need to get some new ideas.
I like that a lot.
Try to get inspiration from something. Yeah. Whether it's a photograph, a piece of art, a movie, another piece of music, whatever. Yeah. An actual tool. Like, for example, I find that when I've gotten a new instrument or a new plugin or a new something or other, that quickly finds its way into what I'm working on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So especially when I'm producing and working on a record with somebody, you know, some sort of instrument will come into my hands, and it'll be like, oh, wait, I'm gonna, and all of a sudden there's like new things, new ideas, and new sounds coming out. And again, maybe that's just, you know, when you literally have a new perspective in front of you or in your hands, you come up with new ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
You have new inspiration.
Yeah.
For example, a few years ago, I was looking through Craigslist. I don't even know what I was looking for, but I saw somebody was selling this instrument called a taisho goto, which is kind of like a dulcimer, like a keyed dulcimer that's from Japan. Yeah. That in Japan is usually played by little old ladies. They get together and have these little ensembles of taisho goto players. And it's a stringed instrument. It kind of looks like a lap steel, a cross between a lap steel and not a hammered dulcimer, but a Appalachian dulcimer. And you strum it. You put it on the tabletop and you strum it, and then you have keys like that you push down, almost like typewriter keys, really. I saw one. Somebody was selling one in my neighborhood or close by, so I went and got one. I didn't know how to play one. I don't even know how to tune it. Yeah. But I got it, and within a week, I used it on 2 tracks on a record that I was co-producing and
That's
playing
awesome.
a lot of instruments on. It just found its way, and it was this weird sound that I was able to make out of it in a weird tuning, and
Yeah.
it just like I can't replicate it. It just happened,
Yeah.
and it's what it is, But in the track, it was unique and different, and and it worked.
Yeah.
Or the 2 tracks that I used it on.
Okay.
So that's a good way to break out of a slump or a writer's
Yeah.
block or a creativity block.
Yeah, novelty or like completely something new, as you said.
Something new,
Yeah.
yeah. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a $2,000 guitar. It
No.
could be a $50
Mhm.
broken guitar that you
Yeah.
get off of the internet, and who knows? You
Yeah.
hit it with a stick. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
It could
yeah,
be anything,
yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of creativity.
And that's the beauty of music. That
Yes.
and yeah, I mean, we think that a synthesizer or a guitar or a violin
Mhm.
are the instruments you use, or drums, but they're anything. I can hit this little table here, or even strike the microphone in a certain way
Yeah.
and make a sound that could be sampled or could be treated. There's just so many different. There
Yeah.
are so many tools out there, whether they're plugins or physical outboard gear or even just reverberation in a room. There's just so many things that can create sound that can become music.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have like certain routines? Like I have a morning routine in order to get in like a certain mood, or trigger creativity, productivity, something like that.
I wish I did. I actually, that's one thing that I'm constantly struggling with. Not struggling, but striving for. I feel that sometimes I am more creative in the morning, or productive in the morning.
Oh wow.
Let me back up here. I feel that sometimes I'm more productive in the morning, but I'm also not a morning person, and so sometimes I don't like rushing my morning at all.
Me neither. That's why I started to create like a morning routine and get up way earlier.
I've tried that, and sometimes that works. So that by 9 o'clock, I'm ready to I've gone through my whatever, reading the news and checking email and having some tea. That's my morning routine. But I like to do that slowly. I really don't like to rush it.
On your own pace.
Yeah, if I have to leave the house at 9 o'clock or something, I want to get up at least 2 hours early.
Yeah.
I don't want to get up at 8:30 and go, oh, geez, I got to jump in the shower and go. That's not how I work.
Yeah.
But in terms of work itself, sometimes because of all the other routines of my life, I get started with work later in the day, and that doesn't always work for me. So I find that mornings and evenings work best for me in terms of productivity.
Okay.
Mid to late afternoon, not so much, although I often find myself working at those times. So I feel like I need to adjust sometimes.
Interesting.
Like it could be the time of year, if the weather's colder out, if it's darker early. I think during the year I find myself working more in the mornings and the evenings, and then other times I find myself working in the afternoons. Summertime, it's super hot outside. Yeah. So you might as well be inside in the afternoon in the air conditioning working.
Yeah.
But then like in the winter times, 12 to 4 is like the really, the warmest time of the day, and it's beautiful outside here in Southern California. The light is beautiful. Mm-hmm. So you want to go out. Yeah. So it's like, well, okay, then maybe I should work, until lunchtime and then do some other stuff and then come back in the evening and do stuff. So
okay.
I saw that question on your list, and that was one of the more interesting ones that I wanted to discuss, because I want more of a routine in terms of creativity specifically, not just productivity, and that's something I'm always thinking about. On the other hand, creativity doesn't work on a schedule, and a lot of people, there are, for example, songwriters, mostly in Nashville, that go to work every day. They go at 10 o'clock and they come out at 1 o'clock with a song. They go have lunch. They meet another songwriter at 2 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock they finished another song.
Holy shit!
And that's just that. But that's how that works in Nashville with the country music industry. It's well known. However, most artists that I've worked with in my career, sitting and staring at a wall for an hour and a half in the middle of the day is part of the creative process. Yeah. Going out and having a coffee or drinking some green tea and then looking at a painting in a museum is part of the process.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like, whenever you take a take a walk, you start to think.
Yeah.
This is like you're creative in that very moment. And that's how I feel too. Even when I was younger on working on music, I always built songs in my head, while I was
Doing the dishes or
or anything, taking a shower, like this cliche kind of thing.
or playing soccer or whatever.
It's crazy. Like, you hear it in your mind and then you build it together. I completely agree.
And one thing I found circling back to when you have writer's block or some sort of lack of ideas, I've found that if I have to do a string arrangement, and I know that the client's waiting, they're waiting for it, but I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. I find that when it's time to write the arrangement creatively, I will get to it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it just, not today. There are no ideas coming today. It's just not happening. When I finally do write the arrangement that was meant to be comes out. So, if I write an arrangement today for a song, it'll be different than the arrangement I would write 3 days from now.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though I'm doing a job for somebody else, there's still an element of the moment.
Yeah.
And creating and being able to create something when the creativity strikes rather than when the job is due.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I have moments where I grab the guitar, I play a little part, and then it just flows. And it's just between 5 and 30 minutes sometimes. And then I have a part and I'm like, oh, super excited about it. I put the guitar away. And then I just keep playing it in my mind, and sometimes over days. Yeah. Just processing it, building. That's how I write music, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing, and for me, it can drive me crazy because when I'm working on music,
overwhelming.
I mean, I won't be able. I'll wake up at 2:00 in the morning with the song in my head.
Exactly.
Or either whether it's just the song in my head going around and around, or it's oh wait, I should change that part that I wrote. Do this. Even when I'm engineering stuff and recording or mixing records, I'll have oh wait, how do I get if I do this, I'll get a better kick drum sound, or where should I put the mic, or all these things can intrude upon rest and sleep and relaxation, which is also very important for creativity.
Oh yeah.
But again, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, definitely. Stressed, anxious, or something like that, then creativity can't flow that well, right?
No, it can't.
Yeah. So
it can't. I mean, some people, maybe we all knew people, maybe you were one of them, that when you had a homework due at school, would wait to the last minute and then crank out a paper or something.
Yeah.
Some people, and they always say, "Oh, I thrive on the pressure or whatever."
Oh yeah, okay.
It's maybe, I'm sure there are some people that perform well under pressure, maybe even perform better under pressure or under deadline. But I think if you're really truly trying to be creative, the time to be, if the more time you have to be creative, the more that you can deliver in a pinch creative things.
I agree.
So that when a problem needs to be solved, with a real tight deadline, you have those tools and that might even just be the subconscious going, well, let's do this, which ends up being super creative.
Yeah.
Even though it was at the moment, it was just well, we had to get it done.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard the story of a songwriter, an artist saying, well, we had finished the album, but then I had this one idea, and it just, I don't know, I wrote it in 20 minutes, and then we went in and recorded it, and 2 days later it was done, and that's the classic song that made their career, and everybody knows, It's when you can think things through, you can work on things, you can craft things, that's important, but then sometimes the creative inspiration just happens, and it can't be explained.
Yeah, you can try to optimize everything. There's a fine line, but I'm not sure when you're aware of crossing that line.
That's the key. When you're crossing the line, when something's finished.
Yeah.
When do you know something's finished?
Yeah.
When you're working with people, the artist will have their vision, and they'll think it's finished.
Mm-hmm.
The producer might have some different, the mixer might have a different opinion.
Yeah.
But but that's the key to creativity. And when there are artists that have created many things that have resonated and connected with the public, sometimes it's just that this person creates things that resonate and connect with the public.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to describe what they're doing. They're just doing something. It just happens to connect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They may have a craft.
Yeah.
They may have an idea what they're doing. But, there are plenty of people that are really good at the craft of writing songs that their songs don't resonate with people. They're they're too heady. They're too musical. They're too complicated. They're too technical. They're too this or that. Whereas sometimes, a punk song with 3 chords and an out-of-tune vocal is what people want, what people love, for their entire lives.
It's authentic.
Yeah. Well, it can be. It's, there's the mistake of someone who doesn't have any talent doing that and then going, well, it's authentic, Yeah, but it sucks.
Yeah, it's not good, dude. It's shitty.
Yeah. There's good out of tune, and then there's bad out of tune, so to speak.
Yeah, right. And out of tune, I think, like in different cultures, they experience, I think, tuning also in a different way, and rhythms.
Well, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
we're talking about Indian music or African music.
Or African music, it's like, I don't know, the tonation is completely like their relationship to it.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade. I love that music. In fact, I was just yesterday. I was, or 2 nights ago, I was diving deep into YouTube with some Indian musicians that I've always liked, and then that just led to
nice
a million other things.
Yeah, of course. So. Why still the violin? Why still music?
Well, the simple answer is, I've been doing this so long. This is what I'm good at it, and this is what I do for a living. And so, I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah.
But that's the simplistic answer. I definitely have branched out beyond just violin, and that's something I'm happy about in terms of just playing the violin. I still do that. I play sessions, I play concerts, I play for TV shows, and I enjoy doing that. But I really love string arranging. I do love, even when getting the chance to arrange for horns and other instruments, producing. I'm now kind of obsessed with engineering and recording.
Awesome.
And so, I dream about different microphones and things that I want to have. So my answer is, music. I am obsessed with music, and that's why I keep doing it. And I'm fortunate to be able to do that for a living, and people pay me to do things in music. I'm also fortunate to have the opportunity to do different styles of music with
awesome.
violin specifically. So whether it's hip hop or country or pop or rock or whatever, or even pseudo classical. And now these days, in the last few years, I've been getting into more experimental and avant-garde music and that kind of creativity and improvising on the violin or on any instrument. But for me, on violin, using electronics, pedals, effects, things like that, to just create sound.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm now, as I grow older, I think I'm more interested in sound as much as music.
Interesting. Okay.
And I'm more open to sound as music rather than just the sound of music.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I go, when it comes to sounds, I tend to pop music for some reason, I like, okay, what kind of sounds do they, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I still, when I listen to records or I listen to the radio, I've been doing this for a while now, but I pull it apart in my head. I'm listening to the kick drum sound. I'm listening to the arrangement. How did they hit all the frequencies? What did they do to get that sound? To achieve that recorded sound. Let me put it that way. So I dissect things when I'm listening to them now, and then sometimes I just roll the windows down and sing along with the record that I love, and awesome. Not think about the reverb.
Just
on the snare
enjoying
drum,
the music.
Because at the end of the day, music still has to move us and still has to excite us and inspire us. And it does. Anyone who's still, making a living in music is harder and harder these days because of the, streaming and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's really changed the business model. But at the end of the day, music is being consumed in greater amounts than ever before.
Yes.
I still think there are too many people putting out records, and that's a problem.
Oh, it's it's a flood.
It's a flood, yeah. And I have theories about how that all happened, but at the end of the day, all we can do is just make music, do it to the best of our ability, and
Share it with the rest.
Share it with the world, but also try to make things that do connect with people and do resonate with people. Because again, otherwise you're just making music in your own bedroom. Fine, but the whole idea is it's not about getting rich. The whole idea is to connect with people. With your music. Whether it's the lyric you wrote, whether it's the melody you write, or whether it's the violin part that I play. It's about connecting and moving people and making people feel something. Whatever that feeling is.
True. What does collaboration mean to you?
It can be exciting. It can also be maddening.
Oh yeah.
But that's just relationships with people.
In general, right?
I think collaborating with people you like is always enjoyable. And I think that first and foremost, that's the important thing. I don't care if the person's a master musician. I just want to like them in order to be able to collaborate with them. Because if you're not comfortable with somebody, you're not going to come up with a meaningful collaboration. There can be tension, artistic tension, where you're like, and that's how I think a lot of great things are made. When how many bands have you heard of? Where the band members clash
for a little bit, and then
and hopefully it's only about the music. The bands that break up are the ones that it gets personal.
And ego is involved and all that stuff.
But it gets nasty and it gets personal, and it gets away from arguing about the art and actually, I don't like the way you chew your food, that kind of thing. But I think if you stick to working with people you like, then the collaboration part is easy and fun. And inspiring.
Definitely. When you work with people you're not clicking with, then there's definitely less commitment towards the thing too, I think.
I mean, if you don't care about the person, then you're not going to care about their art.
But even if you when you collaborate on your own stuff,
like when you bring someone in to work on your own stuff.
And then I think sometimes it can kill motivation in a way.
Well, I mean, but again, and that's personal relationship. It's like if you don't like the drummer that you've hired to play, then you're not looking forward to him coming into the studio to or if it's going badly, you just kind of want to end it. You want to get it over with and figure out something else. But that's a personal relationship.
I agree.
Of course, there are times where someone you love will come in and won't deliver what you need.
That happens.
It happens. But you don't love them any less.
Exactly.
You just kind of go, okay, well, that was the wrong casting. It was the wrong pairing. It was the wrong project or the wrong day. Again, that person can come back a day later and play a whole different part and contribute something completely different.
I agree. Besides music, is there anything else you're passionate about? I mean, your relationship to Japan?
Well, artistically speaking, I'd say photography. I really enjoy photography.
Oh, wow.
In the last 10 years or so, I've gotten back into film photography. Last year or so, I haven't done so much, but I really like that from a creative standpoint. But I used to live in Japan. I spent almost 4 years in Japan in my early 20s.
Which part?
I was in two different parts. I first was in what's called Central Japan. Western Japan, in a small town that most Japanese people don't even know about. Kind of off the beaten path. I was a music student. I was a university student, and then I went back and stayed a little bit longer after graduating. And so I'd never lived in a small town before, and so that was an education. Just living in a small town, and the fact that it was not in America, it was in Japan, and I was still learning Japanese was, it formed me, I think, in a lot of different ways. Then I moved to Tokyo, and I spent about 3 years in Tokyo.
Okay, wow.
And lived in one of the most dense cities in the world, and I love Tokyo. I get to go back pretty often. Right now, I haven't been in about 2 years, and I'm really,
Okay.
or actually almost 3 years, and I'm really like jonesing to go.
Uh,
I'm passionate about the Japanese culture,
yeah.
the food,
Yeah.
some of the music. I worked as a studio musician in Japan, so I was in the Japanese pop music world.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, back in the 90s, a long time ago.
How was that?
Well, again, that's where I started my career, my professional career in Japan, playing in studios. So definitely a different entry into the world of recording studios than here in Los Angeles. But I worked with a lot of great people. I learned so much. I did everything as a freelancer. I played live shows. I played on TV shows. Played on movie scores. A lot of mostly records, karaoke recordings, TV commercials, TV shows, all sorts of stuff. It was just every day was a different thing. That's one thing I like about being a studio musician, that it's just different every day. But
Yeah.
anyway, but in Japan, yeah, things are done a little bit differently there, but ultimately it's the same. You hit record,
Yeah.
you play the music, go home.
I've only been once to Japan. That's like that was 2005.
Okay.
And yeah, I think we toured there for 10 days or so. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting culture.
Were you performing there or
Yeah,
just? Oh, okay.
performing? Yeah.
That's a great way to go as a performer. They treat musicians, they
Oh,
treat
it's-
artists very well there.
Yeah, yeah.
And guests, they treat guests
Yeah.
there. So, they are consummate hosts.
Definitely.
Me being someone who got inside a little bit and was living there and I still speak the language. It was legit. Like for example, now when I go, I even though I often work with some of the same people, they don't come get me at the airport because I know how to get on the train and get to where I'm staying
Yeah.
myself. So
Yeah.
so it's like things like that. It's like they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to babysit me. I can get around. I can communicate, and I like that. I like having that freedom to
Yeah.
be there. And even when I'm working there, I schedule extra time so I can see friends and hang out and just
Cool.
walk around. The last few times I've been there, I've made a point of I'll take a day and I'll just go to a new neighborhood in Tokyo that I don't know, and just take my camera and walk around. Just I'll pick a place, get on the train, go there, and just see what happens.
That's what I liked about touring in general. When you just move around from place to place, hop here, hop there, and then you have you discover new places in your own personal way. What you just described, we did this too.
When I have been on tour, I try to make time to walk around
Yeah.
and just look at things. What I love, the first tours I ever did was when I was living in Japan, and we'd go play shows with artists. And I would go, it was oftentimes with obviously a band, but sometimes with a small string ensemble. So my friends, we would go, and we'd sometimes even, again, go a day early and have dinner at a nice, a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
The greatest thing about moving around Japan and touring in Japan is all the local foods and delicacies and sakes and beers and all that stuff. The food is so localized there that that's the best part of being on the road in Japan. You can try all these different types of food, and the culture, even the dialects change from town to town.
Yeah.
Sometimes from valley to valley they change. So, and whenever I've been in Europe or Australia, the same thing, or even in America, I do love the idea of just, trying things out. Now with like Yelp and
It's
Google
so
and stuff
easy,
like that, it's a little easier to
Yeah.
like find, you can take some of the risk
Yeah.
out of where
Yeah.
I'll try that restaurant because at least
Yeah.
I can see some pictures, I can look at a couple reviews, things like that. Whereas in the old days, you just walk around and you just kind of go, oh, that place looks interesting. I'll try it out.
It's funny.
Yeah, I do love traveling for that reason. I love being able to just try different things, go different places, see different things. I don't normally drink coffee, but sometimes when I'm in Europe, I'm going to drink a coffee because it's good.
Yeah, I love espresso. So, how's the coffee or espresso over there then in Europe?
The last time I had one, I was in France actually. It wasn't. I had a cafe au lait, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
Again, I don't normally do that.
Do you drink tea then? Green tea?
More of a tea drinker. Yeah.
Okay.
I do drink green tea. I'm a bit of a snob about it.
Okay,
So
interesting.
I have friends. I order stuff from Japan. There's one particular
Damn. Okay.
tea shop that I was introduced to about 10 years ago.
Okay, you need to tell me about that.
Sure. And so whenever I'm there, I'll buy like a year's worth. Or
Wow, okay.
I have friends who come over regularly to Los
Because
Angeles.
of that?
No, they come here. I have friends who come here regularly, and
Yeah.
so I'll say, hey, can you pick up a few of
okay,
these?
okay.
Bring them over
No,
next time.
now I understood.
Yeah. The temperature of the water and the ritual of how you make it. And they're just little things that are the right way to do it.
I think those things matter. You know what you just said, like temperature of water and all those little things. I think Italian cuisine, what matters is the quality of the food and time. Mm-hmm. That's what I was told. Yeah.
One of my favorite phrases is, and I know it sounds grumpy, but details matter.
Yeah.
I really truly believe that. You can't half-ass things. And one simple example talking about temperature is this friend of mine from Japan who's a recording artist and taught me about tea. He really got into tea a few years ago and came over here to do some recording with me. And we went to a restaurant, not a Japanese restaurant, but a restaurant. And at the end of the meal, they ordered tea, and they ordered some green tea, steeped in a teapot, and they poured it into the cup, and they took a sip, and it was scalding hot because in American restaurants, you have your water, the hot water kettle that's always at boiling. Like they keep it super hot because black tea, American tea, whatever you want to call it, is supposed to be served and brewed hot. But they did that for green tea, and it burns it kills the taste. So I know this is getting far from the creativity conversation, but I think it does matter. It relates to it because there are still details and rules and things that make a difference that can enhance your enjoyment of a situation or of an experience.
Yeah, that's why I think for me a routine is so important. That you'd okay, and now this step follows, and now I build like a good foundation, and I can take it from there. That's how I feel it. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Now I'm inspired to try to really come up with more of a routine.
Yeah, you inspired so much by the Japanese culture, right? They're very disciplined.
They're very disciplined. Yeah, they're very. There is a element of their culture where they are very disciplined on what they do and how they do it. It could be as much as okay, well, they love to wear a certain designer's clothes, and so they buy that designer. They really collect it. They care for the garments. It may be expensive, so they can't buy a lot of it.
Yeah.
So they treasure their belongings. They take care of them. They wear them with pride. They wear them often, maybe all the time. It becomes a uniform. Mm-hmm. It becomes part of their identity. Even though Japan has the modern society has a level of consumerism that's similar to America, it's still nowhere near how we are here in America. Europe is closer to Japan, I think, in terms of modern society, where it's not about you can have a few nice things and have that be your world and have that be what you use and what you work with and what you wear and what you eat. And it isn't just about more. It's about quality.
We live in a very commercialized world for sure, but I think based on the experiences I made so far, is it's the most commercialized over here. That's what I've experienced. I haven't been to other places yet, but
no, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, again, other countries, European countries, Australia, Japan, they're still commercialized.
Definitely.
There is
Big
that
time,
element, but I think America excels
in
that. However you want to take that comment.
Yeah. Is there a general thing that inspires you, that motivates you to get up in the morning and do your thing?
I think I'm a relatively happy person, so getting out of bed and getting out of bed in the morning is never a problem. I said this at the very beginning of the conversation today, that sometimes I can get stuck thinking that what I have to do is a job. What I have to do that day is a job rather than a privilege. And so if anything, it's all about attitude adjustment and just going, no, this is a privilege to be able to, yes, I have to turn this in, and someone else is. I'm trying to fulfill someone else's vision, but I'm also being given the opportunity to add my creativity and my perspective to the creation, and that's a privilege to be able to do that.
Perfect. Love it. But is there desire or fire inside of you also to give back somehow and inspire others?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have done, literally, I've done educational workshops
There you go.
with high school and middle school, mostly high school students with my quartet, the Section Quartet.
Yeah.
We've gone to high schools. We do a day-long program that starts with an assembly, like a performance and a Q&A session, and then we do some rehearsals during the day with them, and then at night we do a concert with them.
Yeah.
Where they
nice.
join us for
Okay.
some songs.
Wow, okay.
They actually work with us and perform with us, and then we perform the
That's so
second half of
cool.
the concert on our
Okay.
own. So I've done that.
Yeah.
I do enjoy that. It's a lot of hard work.
It is.
I'm not a natural teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I know that about myself, that I'm not. Though I have taught a few violin students in my day, it's not my passion. And so, but working with groups of kids really is exciting and can be really fun and inspiring.
Yeah.
I give back doing that kind of thing. Just last week, I actually spoke on a panel at a local college here, talking about the music business.
Yeah.
But we were talking about all sorts of things. Whether it was creativity, it was inspiration.
Nice.
It was the business, like how to survive in the
Yeah,
business,
okay.
that kind of thing. But it was a much more of a broad. It was only an hour-long conversation with
Okay.
3 other panelists,
Yeah.
so it was pretty broad. But yeah, I like to do these things when I can. I certainly don't think that I have all the answers.
Sure.
I don't like to profess my expertise
Yeah.
because it's like I'm still learning.
Yeah.
You know, every day it's a new
Definitely.
education.
Yeah.
I'm learning literally new skills all the time, but I'm also learning about creativity and learning about inspiration and learning what I can do, what I can achieve, but also, seeing a new painting or from an artist I've never heard of, or learning about a new artist, or learning about a new filmmaker that maybe has been making films for 50 years, but I didn't know who they were. That is what maybe motivates me every day to try to. It's not a conscious, like, I must learn one thing every day. You just the cliche is true. You do learn something new every day.
Yeah.
The hardest part is to balance that with our everyday lives and keeping up with the current events and news, because that stuff, especially these days, can be so overwhelming
Yeah.
and disheartening and depressing.
Mm-hmm.
So countering that with as much art and beauty as possible is the only way to survive.
Awesome. What did music or being creative, what did it teach you about resilience? Like building grit in a way. That's what making music taught me. It's like you try something and it doesn't work. And you're like, but I want to make it happen. And so I go over here and try it in a different way. Or feel here. I'm not a fan of this word like failure, but you're failing constantly.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Here and there it frustrates you, but I think frustration also is a reason for you to get in there the next day.
Well, it also leads, it's a process.
Yeah.
People that think that the first thing, here's the problem. The people that think that the first thing that comes out of their mouths or their brain is gold are, generally speaking, not going to succeed. And I'm not using the word failure. I'm not going to say they're not going to fail. They're not going to succeed. They could be talented. They could be good. But if they don't know how to separate the wheat from the chaff, then they're going to put too much of the bad stuff out there. It's work. It takes sweat, and it takes time, and it takes effort to come up with something great. Inspiration can happen in a lightning bolt, but you still have to craft it. And you still have to mold it into something that's good. So the people that have the flash of inspiration and then are able to then develop it and take it and make it into something really good and consumable are the ones that will succeed. And part of that is failing along the way. You can't hit in baseball, you can't hit 1,000, meaning you can't get a hit every time you go to the bat. Baseball players who have a batting average of 300 to 400 are considered the best hitters in baseball. That means they fail 6 or 7 times out of 10. So when you have 10 at bats, you only get 3 or 4 hits out of 10 at bats. That's successful. And if you think about it, that's failing 6 to 7 times.
Yeah.
So let's put it this way. In baseball, the best hitters, very few hitters have hit 400, meaning they get 4 hits out of every 10 at-bats. That means the best hitters in the game fail 6 out of 10 times, 60% of the time. That shows you that, failing is not only part of the game, but it's part of succeeding.
Yeah, it's crucial, right?
It's crucial.
Yeah.
You can't succeed all the time.
Yeah.
And your failures will lead you to success.
Love it. Because you kept doing and you
Yeah.
put in the work, then I think in the end it's way more fulfilling anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect. Cool. Is there anything else you would like to share or talk about?
I think we've covered a lot of stuff. I'm really this was a fun conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. I'm super stoked that we did this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to make music with you.
Thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah.
It was fun working on your songs.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your creativity. Thank you for your music.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.